Hey YouTube, it's Lucy here for an update. Joel, myself, and the baby, we just got back from Colorado. We were there for a medical trip for the baby. For those of y'all who do not know, or maybe you're unaware, I don't know, we were diagnosed prenatally with a potential chromosomal abnormality that we decided to not confirm until after he was born. The risk associated with doing that testing prenatally was not something that we personally were comfortable with. And given the situation, we just opted to do it after he was born. So with that said, of course, when you're pregnant, you're like, oh my gosh, there could be something wrong with my baby. There's something different about my baby. You know, you just have all these thoughts and you research, you reach out to doctors immediately. And we started planning this trip back when I was pregnant for the baby. A lot of it wasn't finalized until after the fact, but it was nice. It was nice to get there and to talk to his doctors in person and not just these telehealth or these, I don't know if is that what you call them, telehealth? I'm pretty sure that's right. But yeah, like it was just nice to be in person and have them, you know, hands on him, assess him and run a couple of tests. So we do not have any answers back from any of that stuff. In case you are curious, it apparently takes a while. So, but his diagnosis was confirmed. We already knew that much. So anyways, while we were there, because of the time that we flew in, we got to the airport at 4 o'clock and we left to come home at 8 o'clock, I think it was. So given the flight in time and the flight out time, it left us with essentially 2 days. So the day that we came in, our appointments weren't scheduled until the day after. We rented a car and we went to Colorado Springs per some of y'all's suggestions, and did Garden of the Gods. And then on the day out, we still had our car, obviously, the rental. And we did Manitoba Springs. I think it was still Colorado Springs. I'm not sure. But we did Cave of the Winds. And both of those trips, I cannot begin to express how therapeutic and just, it was everything I didn't know I needed. So even though we were not there for myself, that trip was, it was amazing. I think it was the best time that Joel and I have probably ever had together. Okay, it's kind of, I don't know, maybe you'll be able to relate. It's kind of weird to say, but like, it was the first time in like almost 14 years I've truly been able to relax. And I think it's because I knew without a doubt, positively, with every fiber within my body, nobody was going to walk up to me and tug on my leg and go, "Mommy." Nobody was going to need me. Nobody was going to come into my ear and say, "Mommy, so-and-so did this." I knew, and that positive knowing just brought a whole sense of just calmness, and something that I haven't had. I literally have not had that in such a long time that I forgot what it was like to have that. So with that said, it also allowed Joel and I the opportunity to have conversations, real conversations about my medical care, what the future looks like, the things that we need to do. And we have a lot of kids, you know, having any conversation is difficult and finding that time to do so, especially with our current schedules of work and school. And it's just, it's a lot when you as parents are both working full-time and you're both in college full-time and you have 8 kids to care for and one of which has special needs. Like, it's a lot. And then you throw cancer into the mix and it's really hard to find just time to go, what do we need to do? When are we going to squeeze it in? How do we do this? What do we need to take out of our lives to make this happen? So that trip, like I don't know, when we were getting ready to go and the flight there, like these aren't things that we had planned to happen. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to be there and we're not going to have kids that are going to interrupt us and we can have conversations. We didn't plan for that. Like the only thing that was going through our brains at the time was, what we are there to do with Sutton. You know, what are they going to do? What information are we going to find out? The good, the bad, just all of it. You know, what is the future going to hold for us? We were just so consumed with the baby that we didn't see these things as possibilities during our trip or whatnot. And it was just, it was nice. It was nice to just sit there and be able to look at him and know that we can figure out a plan. So anyways, doing Garden of the Gods and Cave of the Winds, like I said, the views, I've seen mountains, but as a kid, we used to live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It is where a lot of my family is from and born. But I don't remember it, you know, I remember looking out a window and there being mountains in grandma's house, and that's about it. So, really seeing mountains for the first time in these breathtaking views and being up close and personal. I've always loved Mother Nature. I've always I am in awe of it, except for snow. But, walking out there at the top of these mountains and seeing what God has created and the beauty in it is, I just sat there. I sat there, and every time I saw it, I probably cried again and again and again. And thinking about it now, I can't help but get teary-eyed. If you follow me over on Instagram, I'm sure you saw a million stories of me going, oh my gosh, look at those mountains. But look at these mountains. But look how these mountains are different from those mountains. And what about these mountains? It was just all mountains for me. It was beautiful. For those of you who may happen to live in Colorado, or I guess any state that has mountains, I don't even know if it differs from one state to another. I am so sheltered. It's not even funny. This was my first time I've ever been north. So if that puts that in perspective for you. It was also my second flight. It was my first flight with Joel. It was my first time with my own husband anywhere other than where we live without children. We never had a honeymoon. So I was lucky enough that my husband, instead of going on a honeymoon, we stayed where we had our wedding, because my family was all together for the first time since my daddy Jack, which is my grandfather, had passed away as a child. So it was really important to me to be there with family, and he thankfully was okay with that. So we never had a honeymoon. So anyways, the trip was amazing. It was nice to just, like I said, be there and have these tough conversations about what life will look like, how we get Sutton to take a bottle. That's not working out. Oh my gosh, that's just a hot mess, freaking express. And honestly, you know, after 8 kids, a lot of it has to do with like Joel's not doing his part. I love you, babe. I know you're watching this, more than likely, but you're not doing your part. It's nothing that I haven't told him already. So, he's not giving him a bottle, and we've had a lot of tough conversations, a lot of me being mad and frustrated that I'm asking for help and I'm not getting it, but he's so used to just breastfeeding. And sometimes I also get like the perspective of, you look okay and you seem okay, so it's hard to know that you're sick and that you need help. But I do, and we, you know, he's not taking a bottle. So I told Joel, I was like, I'm going to have to just leave him here with you one day, find a place for the other kids to go, because I know it's going to be too much for him to have a screaming baby and a bunch of other kids at the same time. I myself would be like, I tap out. Where's the button? I need help. Somebody, please let me tag you in and let me tag out for like 10 minutes, please. So, I need to find some friends who could potentially volunteer and take some of the other kids, and then maybe have Jacelyn or somebody helpful or another friend come in and help Joel get the baby to take a bottle. But I think it's just going to take me disappearing for a day. By disappearing, I mean outside of the house, because if I hear it, I know I'm going to come running and I'll be like, here's a boob. I'm so sorry. Don't hate me. So I think that's what it's going to come down to, but we'll get there. I know that eventually, you know, he'll take it. He did have his first solid 2 days ago and he did amazing. So that will help. I have not been successful in getting him to take a sippy cup either. So there's that. I don't know what we're going to do. Moving on, as far as the cancer and the appointments go, that too has been a hot mess express. So I thought I'd scheduled I thought it was my second endocrinology appointment at least that's what I'd been telling y'all. I was wrong. That's not what that was. That was a pre-op appointment. I was like, wait, what? This is a what appointment? Anyways, it ended up being canceled because we went to Colorado and we went out of state. So that was one of the reasons of why that appointment was canceled. The referral was not going through. They tried getting the referral to come through several times themselves. They ended up calling the office, the pre-op office ended up calling me and saying, hey, can you call your doctor's office? Because we're getting nowhere, like nowhere. So if you can get them to send the referral to us, because you can't come in and see us until the insurance, because insurance won't pay for it without that referral because it's a specialty, blah, 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 blah. So many freaking hoops to jump through. It's awful. So, and I'm dealing with that with Sutton as well as the kids, which I'll get to in a second. But so the referral ended up going through just a smidge too late, but it was going to be canceled regardless. So it's now postponed and we do not have a new date on that yet. The endocrinologist that I've been seeing wants me back in on December 1st, but they just scheduled that appointment. And I think that's supposed to be a follow-up from the pre-op appointment, which didn't take place. So I need to call them back and see if I'm still supposed to come in, considering the pre-op was canceled or what. But I did get a call yesterday from the other endocrinologist, the second opinion one that I thought I was going to on, I think it was a Friday. They called and they were like, hey, your appointment's on the 29th, this upcoming Monday. I was like, oh, thank God you called, because I couldn't find your name. I couldn't find your number. Couldn't find anything. So that thankfully has now been worked out. And so there's that. I had my geneticist appointment, another telehealth appointment, which was great. I actually asked to do telehealth instead of driving an hour and a half from here with a screaming baby in the car seat because he hates the car seat. I wish he would take a bottle because he would be much happier in the car as well. But yeah, that's not happening right now. So the geneticist appointment went great. It was more so over the NF1 than it was the cancer. I guess it's just automatically tied into it. But in order for my kids to be tested for NF1, which I correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, from my understanding, it is a genetic mutation where my body grows tumors. So it's genetic. So my kids can have it, but my kids can't be tested until my testing is done. Insurance hoops, that's what I was coming back to. So my kit for that had just arrived in the mail Thanksgiving Day, oddly enough. I was like, what? Mail runs on Thanksgiving Day? It was not typical mail for what it's worth. But anyways, so that kit came in. So I'm about to do that and send it off. And it is $200 after insurance. I thought it was only going to be $100. So, you know, $200 in the grand scheme of things is not a lot of money. But when you were thinking it was going to be not more than $100, because that's what the geneticist said, and then it was double, it's like, oh, okay, well, there's that. We'll see how that goes. They test for a bunch. I think it's like 84. If you follow the GoFundMe page, I posted the update there where I can actually write it all down and see it and not have to try to remember it in the midst of doing a video. But yes, so there's that testing. And I think the results come back on it within 21 days. You're going to have to check that GoFundMe. I think I put it on there. So there's that. And then what else is there? The GoFundMe. Thank you to each and every single person, speaking of GoFundMe, who has made the donation. The fact that you take time out of your day, and I'm pretty sure I've said this before, but every time I see a donation come through, it's what I think. It's just like, this person right now in this moment is thinking about me. They are taking time out of their day for me. And it's not just like, oh, me. It's like, why me? Why me? Like, I don't know. Sometimes I struggle with, why am I enough? Why do you like me? Why are you thinking of me? So there's like, I've been doing my counseling and my therapy and stuff like that. And I know that's some of the things that we have talked about in individual counseling, is it's a lot of like previous past trauma for me that just kind of keeps surfacing. So sometimes I forget to love myself and my own value, but that's a whole other story. So we're all human. We all have our struggles, and that's one of mine. But every time I see those donations come through, and it brings me closer to this surgery, and initially my first thought was, oh my gosh, like each donation is bringing me closer to my surgery. I'm about to have surgery. My baby's no longer about to nurse. And it was just all these like intense feelings that caught me off guard because I did not see that coming. But now it's like, I'm going to find relief. I am not going to have to experience this again, hopefully. I've a lot here lately. I've had issues with swallowing. And it feels like something's getting, I think I've explained this in the past, something's getting twisted, and it's like cutting off my airway, and I have a hard time breathing. And that's full fight, flight, anxiety, panic. I mean, everything all wrapped up in once instantaneously. It's scary as, keep that PG. So it's bad. I went to a play date with a friend. I say play date, it's more like I'm hanging out with my friend. The girl that's always here for our unassisted births, a really good friend of mine. Sorry, my phone had a notification that popped up. My battery's low, apparently. We were at the park, and I turned a certain direction, and I swallowed, and I could feel it just go. And as it twisted, my insides just felt like it inflamed, like it just became swollen. And it was so swollen that I couldn't swallow. And my mouth was just like salivating, like really, really bad. And the more that it was doing its thing, my mouth was just getting watery, and you just want to swallow, and you can't swallow, and then you can't breathe. And if you try to swallow, it just made the inability to breathe even worse. But I found like you can kind of like feel another lymph node right around here. You can kind of push it up and tuck it out of the way. And then I don't have the swallowing and the breathing issues. I have no idea. Like I tried mentioning this to the endocrinologist that I saw the first time. And here it is. It's right here because I could just feel it pop. It feels like it pops. It doesn't actually pop, just for clarification. And he was not at all concerned about it. It was just this cancer that's right here is where it is. And that's all he was concerned about. And I was like, you don't get it. Like, this gives me issues with swallowing and stuff, but like, I can breathe. This takes it to a whole new level. When you can't breathe, it's frightening as crap. And like I said, I don't normally have issues unless I'm like trying to like turn my neck a certain direction and swallow or whatever. So, or yawn. Yawn's a big one. That sucks. Anyways, I have a question for y'all. I have a few questions for y'all. That's everything that's going on in my life. We're just trying to go through the motions of these appointments in order and figure it out while navigating cancer and the tumor issue at the same time. Speaking of, I've also noticed, well, I didn't even notice. My kids have pointed it out to me. Mom, you said this. Did you mean this? Mom, what are you talking about? You said this. There's a lot of that happening. And at first I was like, oh, I did. And then I noticed that my kids are saying it to me all the time. Like, to the point it's like, am I having memory issues? Like, what in the world is happening? Are you sure? That is not what I said. And it's all day, every day. It's like this constant, I'm like, how long has this been happening? And they're like, you do it all the time. You've been doing it. I was like, what? Have I just been oblivious to it, or what is happening? So I mentioned that during the geneticist appointment because he had also asked, do you ever feel like you're on edge for no reason? I was like fight or flight mode without it being like triggered on edge. And he was like, yes. And I was like, yeah. Yeah. That's like the definition of my life. Yes, I can just be sitting here and then all of a sudden, and I feel like it's deja vu. Like that's what I've always thought. It was like, oh my gosh, something bad's about to happen. I can feel it within, like that. Call me crazy. I don't care. I probably am at this point, but I will literally sit there and watch TV and I can have these emotions where it's this very intense need to protect my kids or somebody's not breathing in their sleep and I've got to, and I've talked about this so many times, like just really bad anxiety, but there are moments where that really bad anxiety is not just anxiety. It is like pure survival mode, truly fight or flight. And I found out that like that could be part of my NF1. So, and the neurology aspect is that it can be common for tumors on the brain. So anyways, I now have, after talking to the geneticist, a cardiologist and a neurology appointment for myself. And then the same thing for Sutton. They will do his appointments before they do the other kids' appointments, just because of his chromosomal abnormality. And then we'll test the other kids once my insurance says, oh, you can. So I forgot where I was going with all of this initially. There was something that I was saying before that, and I'm sure you're like screaming at your phones or your computers at this point, but I've forgot. Anyways, yeah, so that's it. That's everything that's going on. Those are my appointments. This is what has been happening, and that's what we need to happen. As far as my emotions go, I'm actually feeling a lot better. This fall break, this whatever break you want to call it, when we don't have classes right now, has been very therapeutic as well. I'm enjoying time with my family, and that's something that I did not, I mean, you know it's going to happen, but a lot of the time it's like, oh my gosh, my kids, like we thrive on structures and routine, and without it, everybody just gets moody, and it's a lot of like bickering back and forth. Like the kids are just getting on each other's nerves, and then they drive me crazy, and you know, your typical family crap. So it's just like, oh, get along. But we have not been dealing with any of that. So it's been really nice. We've had really genuine, good quality family time together. Secondly, I didn't see this coming either, but with having the cancer diagnosis, obviously things could be so much worse than what they actually are. But I have found myself appreciating every single thing that I can. And I think it's a nice reminder, and it's a good note to end this video on. There are so many things in our lives that we cannot control, and I've gone through so many crappy experiences in my life from my childhood to now. It really paints a picture of what to truly be grateful for in your life. And I may want to strangle my husband when it comes to a bottle and our baby, but you know what? I have a husband. I have a partner who is by my side. I have a man who is providing for our family, and I'm grateful for that because it could have been worse. My kids may drive me batty sometimes, but again, I have children. So many people will never have that opportunity, and I feel very blessed that I do. You know, there's times where I look, I have a box right here and some trash and stuff that I need to deal with. And there's times where I get overwhelmed by a pile of clothes or an unmade bed and a box of trash that needs to be walked downstairs. But you know what? I have a home that's holding this trash, and I have clothes to put on my body, and I have enough space in a home to where I can walk downstairs. So I am grateful. There's just a lot of these moments where it's like, you know what? Sometimes you have to find the good in life and be genuinely grateful for what those moments are, even if they are bad, like cancer. I know that at the end of the day, all things in God's timing, He has a reason, and it's not always for me to understand. I just need to trust the process and know that He will always be with me, and my family will be taken care of one way or another. My baby will take a bottle. He will get fed. My kids will be loved. Even if I can't physically love on them and hug them for a day or two at a time, we'll be okay. So, yeah, until next time, bye YouTube. It won't, I keep missing the button.